Hey everybody, Chris Sheng here, and today I'm going to actually give you some tangible steps to start growing and scaling your business. This process here is really crucial to me because it really helps me figure out a few things. Number one, product market fit. Number two, the size of your market. And then three, a scalable way for us to message and actually reach your market. So the reason why I built this process out is, funny story is, when I first started consulting, I talked to over 100 companies at the time, and a recurring theme kept happening, which is a lack of understanding of product market fit. A lot of these companies have gone ahead and spent tens and thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars into creating this beautiful product, but they had no understanding of what their market actually looks like. And this is super important for obvious reasons to me, but I can understand the fear that founders might have in terms of actually trying to find that answer. Because I think a lot of founders go in with big dreams of thinking that they're growing and building a business that's $1 billion idea, but obviously that's not really the case. And so this process actually helps you figure that out. If you're growing a $1 billion business versus something that's really realistically $1 million to $5 million a year business, it's important to know early on because it can change the trajectory of your growth. But not only that, it's going to change your expectations and how you strategically align to set up for that growth. It also might give you, some understanding that this is not the $1 billion idea that I thought it was going to be, and it might give you a reason to exit early on and save you tons of money, tons of man hours, tons of heartache, building this business. So this is something that I do for all of my clients very early on, people who are in revenue that have paying customers, people that don't. In either way, I'm going to show you how you can utilize this process to start growing your business. So number one, we have to define your audience. So like if you fall in that first bucket of already having users or existing customers, paying customers, you're in revenue, that's fantastic. You're a little bit ahead of the game, but we're going to be able to leverage that later on. And the second bucket again is you don't have any users, you've built up the platform, you have this product, you have the service, but you don't have any users and you don't know where to start. So in that case, you're going to have to hypothesize your target audience. And nobody can really go through this exercise except for you, the person who created that product or the service. In your mind, you probably had an idea of who this target audience is, and that sense might be very general, but what I want you to do through this exercise is to get super narrow, super focused, super granular with that audience. And not just by those boring demographic profiles of, income level and gender and race and things like that, but be creative. Like I already touched upon a little bit earlier in one of the previous videos, I want you to be super creative. Nowadays you can target an audience by the type of music that they listen to or a favorite television show. And these things are going to be super important because when we get to the next steps, that's going to help us reach a very specific core group of people. And don't worry, this is not going to be ultimately, your target audience for life or the rest of your, the days of your business, but it's going to be a jumping off point. It's going to be a baseline for us to start getting some data back so you can start building upon that. So don't be scared. Don't feel like it's so much pressure to get this exactly right. But what you want to do is just, if you were to imagine one person or 5 people of what they might look like, that's the point of the hypothesizing the audience, to get to a point where we can visually see a representation of who this person might be. So after you've done this, you're going to try to figure out the channels to reach this target audience. So I like to think of it in this context of asking yourself this question: where does this target audience live, breathe, eat, sleep, either digitally or physically, right? And I ask you that because say for example, you're a lifestyle brand and in your hypothesis, you say, well, a lot of our target audience might be Drake fans, for example. Well, then where are they? They might be at a Drake concert. And in that case, you can get to a Drake concert, you could stand outside of a Drake concert, and you could present your product or your service to these individuals that you've already calculated to be, or hypothesized to be, your target audience, right? So these kinds of things are super important. And channels you want to realize can be everything from online to offline. But before I start investing into paid advertising or like doing things like Facebook ads or Google AdWords, depending on the scope and size of your company and the stage of your company, you may not want to do that yet. You may not want to go ahead and start investing into all these different types of paid advertising platforms because you don't have enough data back. You don't understand the audience well enough. In which case you want to try to figure out, free, simpler ways of trying to get in front of them. And I'll walk you through some ideas of that, but that's again part of the creative process of trying to figure out where are they. And then after you're able to figure out where they are, the next step is to figure out your messaging. So number one, you can jump right in, and you could, after you figure out your channels, you can jump right in and go through that channel and start, testing different types of messaging and seeing how people convert down that funnel right off the bat. Or what I prefer to do is ask your target audience. And how you do this is survey. And I'll dive into another video talking about what kind of questions I ask in this survey. But the purpose is to figure out, I think, what kind of messaging really resonates with your target audience. The channel is a means for you to get in front of them. The channel is a means for you to aggregate a bunch of these contacts. But then the goal is to then start talking to them to figure out how do they like to be talked to. What's going to get or elicit the type of response that you are looking for, whether it's a call to action and a conversion, or even just like a learning exercise and realizing how they don't want to be messaged to or talked to, right? These are all things that are super important that you can literally ask your target audience. I know it boggles your mind, right? Like you can ask your target audience how they want to be sold to. But that's going to at least give you a starting point, or again, a baseline of where you can start. And it's going to give you a direction of the types of content, the types of messaging that you can start putting together to actually get the best possible chance of conversion. And after you get this information back, that's where I think it actually makes a lot of sense to start investing into paid advertising. And I'll give you a lot of the insights in terms of this, but just a few things that very quickly I'll talk about that I ask in surveys is a lot of the profiling or the targeting questions I ask about the audiences are specifically related to, say, something like Facebook, and I will ask and profile them by how the categories are listed in Facebook's targeted advertising, because that very much gives me something that I can just take from the survey and facelift and put over a Facebook ad in the audience, and I can target them very specifically. Secondarily, another survey question I like to ask is, if you're Googling a specific product or service that I'm doing, that I'm trying to sell to you, what are you actually searching? So I know what kind of keywords to actually bid on when I start doing AdWord campaigns. So those are two things that I'll dive a little bit more deeper into in a future video, but at least this will give you an idea of how to get things started.